So how do I prepare for exams? Well, I use a method I've called the Rongi method. I just talked about previously how I actually study during the year, but now I'm going to go into how I specifically prepare for a regular exam in school, and how I would, if I could go back in time, prepare for every exam I ever took in school. Unfortunately, this isn't my creation. This is a method I stole from a very, very smart medical student friend, and we can call him Jeff. The key here is to focus on the necessary information and use your time efficiently. In the first exam in medical school, I reread all the PowerPoint slides and summarized all my notes. Then I summarized my summaries. And then at one point, I had notes on notes on notes. This was an ineffective strategy. Luckily, my friend Jeff saved me. Jeff didn't look at PowerPoint slides. Jeff didn't write summaries. Jeff used a method which I will call the Rongi method. What is this Rongi method? Well, 9 days before my exam, I go through all the content I need to know, but I am not learning that content. I'm skimming it, going over it briefly, finding any gaps in my knowledge, and then what I do is I write down these gaps in my knowledge. I never look at a single PowerPoint or chapter for more than 5 minutes. Again, I'm not learning that content, I'm just finding the gaps in my understanding. Whenever I find a topic that I'm confused about or couldn't explain to one of my friends, I utilize the Feynman technique. I write that topic down in red on my iPad. Writing down every topic I don't understand in red takes me about 6 hours total over 2 days. So the next thing I do is I break that list up into manageable chunks and learn and understand all the topics written in red. But what about the things I didn't write down? Well, guess what? I skip those things. This is why the Rongi method is so powerful. Often throughout a course, there are things that I understand straight away, that I don't need to look at again. Re-reviewing those things is really just a waste of time. Instead, I skip over those things and focus on what I'm not sure of. I focus on the significant gaps in my knowledge, my Rongis. Okay, but what is my exact plan? What do I do on these 9 days of studying before my exam? In general, it's broken down into skim, learn Rongis, and then practice test. So what do I do on day 1 out of 9? Well, on day 1 out of 9, I skim half of all my material and write down half my Rongis. Day 2 out of 9, I skim the second half of all the material and write down those Rongis. Day 3, attack on the Rongis begins. I need to cover 10 out of 40 topics today. So I'll look at my first item and I'll say, okay, aortic regurgitation. Well, I don't really understand that at all. Let's go look at some notes, a PowerPoint, and write down a few things on a separate Notability workspace. Okay, now I'm going to try and explain this topic as if I was explaining it to a friend. This is where the significant changes happen. You are identifying your knowledge gaps and learning that information. Remember, understanding is much, 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 much more important than memorization. Day 4, 5, and 6 are the same thing, except the next 10 Rongis, the next 10 Rongis, the next 10 Rongis. So Rongis 20 out of 40 is day 4, Rongis 30 out of 40 are day 5, and Rongis 40 out of 40 is day 6. Notably, on each day, before I cover the new Rongis, I review yesterday's Rongis, and this is a form of self-imposed spaced repetition. Day 7 out of 9. Now we're getting to the part that really make an impact, right? So these last 2 days are practice testing days. I make sure that the last 2 days of studying before my exam focus on practice testing. We will go over later how to get the best out of every practice test you take, but briefly, just mimic test day as best as you can. Where could you find some questions? Where do I find questions to go off of? Well, usually the professor-made questions, the people that write the exam, are the best sources of questions to find. Also, the school usually provides a few practice questions, or they even may provide a few practice tests. Self-made questions that try to guess questions are a good source of questions as well. Notably, on each day, before I cover the new Rongis, I review yesterday's Rongis, and this is a form of self-imposed spaced repetition. Day 8 out of 9, review all the Rongis again, and then another big practice test that I made for myself I might use. So then what I'll do is after I'm done that big massive practice test, as I did the day before, I'll add the questions I got wrong to my Rongis, and then I'll try and understand those Rongis. And guess what? When we're there, our studying is done. Tomorrow's exam day. Day 9 out of 9, take the exam. Overall, the Rongi method has improved my grades by 1 to 2 letter grades. If you are studying by rereading, highlighting, or re-summarizing, oh, even the word sounds bad, I urge you to try the Rongi method, maybe just for one exam, and see what change it has on your exam score.